This is The Toss-Up, where an expert-line panel dissects the hottest stories within the world of sports. From some of the nation's strongest college programs right here in Bloomington to the games and moments that capture the world's attention, it's all right here on The Toss-Up. Bryce Harper changed cities. Manny Machado moved all the way across the country. And Mike Trout stayed home. Craig Kimbrell, he has no home. This past offseason in Major League Baseball was one of the most exciting ones that I can remember. We have superstars in New York, Boston, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, San Diego, and Chicago. We have rising rookies in San Diego, Chicago, and Toronto. Baseball perhaps hasn't been in this good of a place in a long time. We see the NBA make offseason headlines almost night in and night out, but baseball has struggled to do so in recent years. Then, this winter, we have 3 superstar signed contracts that, when added up, are worth $1.06 billion over 35 years. Again, $1.06 billion across 3 guys. In other news, Joe Maddon is in the last year of his contract in Chicago and is feeling the pressure. The Yankees, they're absolutely stacked. Clayton Kershaw is still hungry for a ring, and the Red Sox are hoping to repeat. Baseball is boring? Put that to bed. You want storylines? You've got storylines. You want big names? You've got big names too. Now let's sit back, relax, and enjoy watching the stars of the game flourish over the hot months of summer and into the brisk nights of October. Hi everybody, welcome to The Toss-Up. My name is Michael Dugan. Joining me on the panel this week we have Dan Black, Drew Fry, and Jack Grossman. Jack, Bryce Harper, big name, big dollar sign. Is he worth it for both sides?
It's tough to say. I think it is for the most part worth it. I don't think it's as big of a slam dunk as Mike Trout is for the Angels because Harper's not the same level of generational talent Mike Trout is, even though he is a top 5 player for sure in baseball right now. That's a lot of years. It was so late in the game. If anytime you get a top 5 player, you got to get it done, and it's definitely worth it short term for the Phillies. Puts a lot of pressure on them to win early, though, because you never know what's going to happen in the back half of a superstar contract. Back to the Angels, Albert Pujols, obviously the big one that comes to mind there. So a lot of pressure to win and to win quickly in Philadelphia now with Bryce Harper. They have other pieces around them with Aaron Nola, young pieces bringing in JT Realmuto also. So a lot of intensity and pressure in Philly.
Yeah, it definitely puts the pressure on Philly right now. I completely agree with that. I think really short term this is a good move for the Phillies, and obviously Harper's making so much money that it's got to be a good deal for him. But it will be interesting to see if he's able to continue this sort of success that he's had so far in his career. He hasn't been known for being the most consistent.
Injury issues also.
Yeah, the injuries as well, and with no opt-outs in that contract, it could burn Philly. But with the fan base they have right now, the place that organization's in, it's good for now. We'll see if it comes back to bite them later on.
Dan, do you like this for the Phillies?
I think you know that answer for me. Yeah, I do like this. I do like the move. It is a long deal. It is, like you said, the contract is very set in stone. He's going to be there for the rest of his career. But I think the way they looked at it is the money that he's getting, it is a lot. But we're talking about 13 years in the future, right? A superstar, what he's going to be making, even 10 years in the future, superstar that he's going to be making is going to be chump change compared to what guys will be making then. He will be older, but you never know. We always see outliers in sports. We see Tom Brady still playing at a decently high level for 41. See LeBron now still at 35. Granted, the season for him hasn't gone that well, but individually, LeBron's still putting up great numbers, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that Bryce Harper is still hitting the ball very well towards the back end of that contract. But for right now, for the next 5-6 years, even, we can go 8 years that far down, this team's ready to compete year in, year out. And if they can get a World Series or two and are consistently in the playoffs, then it looks great for them because as we get further into this contract, superstars are going to be wanting more and more money, as they always do. And his price tag of he's getting paid, I think, low to mid 20s every year is nothing compared to what guys are going to get paid as we get further and further into the mid 2020s.
Right, and if you can guarantee yourself contention in the division and maybe even the National League for 8 to 9 years out of those 13, even those final 4 years of that contract, it seems worth it because of what the last decade was for you.
Oh, absolutely. And the way that this team is put together, especially right now, they got Aaron Nola for a steal of a contract for an extension. I think it was 4 years, $45 million for a guy who finished second in Cy Young voting last year and had the best WAR in the league. I mean, you still got McCutchen, even though he's older, playing at a high level so far. You got Rhys Hoskins just finding himself now. You got Real Muto, who made his first All-Star game last season. You got Gene Segura, who kind of went under the radar, but is still a very consistent hitter and fielder at the top of that lineup. And then you have guys that have the pressure taken off of them. Some of the young guys, Cesar Hernandez, Mike Alfranco, Odubel Herrera, those guys who the past couple of years the Phillies had to rely on to be the go-to guys, and they just weren't ready yet. And now those guys can feel a little more comfortable, get into the game a little bit more. And so overall, for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the Phillies are in a great position with Bryce Harper right in the middle of the lineup.
The Phillies are happy. The Phillies fans are happy. Bryce Harper is happy. Scott Boras, his agent, was happy until Mike Trout came in 2 weeks later, signed a deal worth exactly $100 million more. Is that contract worth it for all parties involved?
I would say not as much, but then again, in this case for Trout, hold on, listen. In this case for Trout, it's a situation where right now the Angels are not a real contender like the Phillies are with Bryce Harper, but in the future, that could be the difference, is that they don't really have to pay anybody else right now, so it's fine to pay Mike Trout a lot of money, so basically they're banking on their farm system to develop really well, and hopefully in the next few years they can get some big star free agents to go along with Mike Trout. But right now, aside from making a lot more money, in terms of where the teams are in terms of competitiveness, the Phillies with Bryce Harper are a lot better than Mike Trout is in LA.
You got Mike Trout hooked up for a long time, though, and this is a guy who has put up the best WAR through his age 26 season, better than guys like Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr. This could be maybe the best baseball player to ever play the game. Anytime you can lock him up for a long period of time, that's worth it. And the Angels did front load the contract a little bit to where the most money he'll be making will be next season before they're really going to enter that championship window. He's only 27. It's his age 27 season right now. So he's signed for a long period of time. He'll still have 6, 7 really, really, really great years at the very least, assuming he doesn't get hurt, which he doesn't have the injury history that Bryce Harper has. And in a couple of years, you get that Albert Pujols contract off the books to where you're not paying him $22 million every year. You'll have money to be able to go bring out some other pieces. You have guys coming up, such as Joe Adell, who's the number 2 prospect in baseball right now, from Louisville, Kentucky, by the way.
Gotta throw it in there.
Yes,
Gotta
throw it in there. So he's a guy that's supposed to help Trout in the outfield, a guy that's coming up as a center fielder, but, well, obviously because of Trout, moved to one of the corner outfield positions. You have a lot of young guys in the future coming up. And at the end of the day, Bryce Harper, as great as he is not nearly on the same level as what Mike Trout is as a baseball player. So that's what the risk you got to take if you're the Angels in this situation. Make sure you lock him up for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Trout is the best in the game right now. And as much as I love watching Harper, he demands that sort of attention, and that's great for the sport. But Harper, just as a pure player, has had the better career. He's been an MVP or runner-up 6 times already.
Trout, you mean?
Trout, yes.
Yeah.
Trout has been an MVP candidate perennially. And I think this is a move that the Angels really needed to make because they are struggling for an identity. They haven't had a really strong winning team recently. And to lock him up long-term, they can now build pieces around him so that they don't end up in a situation where they have nothing to go off of. For the Phillies, the Harper deal was a great signing for them as well, as they're now ready to take that next step. But I think long term, if we look at it down the line, the Angels will be able to work with Trout and build around him. And I think Harper could very easily have some seasons where, I mean, similar to last season, if he hits, 220 and struggles with injuries, then the Phillies are paying a lot of money for someone who may not contribute year in and year out.
Right, and the reason I said that the Bryce Harper deal was a little better was because in Mike Trout's case, you're basically banking on those younger players really developing really quickly while he's still in his prime. Because you say is 6-7 years, and while he does, that individually is good for him, but as a team in terms of competing for a championship, you have to hope that not every single one, but most of your farm guys develop to a point where it's not all on Mike Trout. Whereas in this case for Bryce Harper, if he has an off game or so, there's plenty of talent around him for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years where it's not as big of a deal if he has an off game. Whereas for Mike Trout's case, that's a little bigger of an issue.
I think we're arguing two different things here. I think Drew and I are saying it's better for the organization, as in
Right.
the Angels, and you're arguing it's a better situation for Bryce Harper because he has a chance to win now. And I think both those things can be true because Bryce Harper in the next 5-6 years has a way better chance than Mike Trout does to win a World Series. There's no conversation about that. But as far as the Angels are going as a team, as an identity, trying to basically fight with the Dodgers to
Right.
get viewership in LA, not to mention, the Lakers, the two NFL teams, everything else that LA has to offer, to have the best player in a generation is the only way the Angels are going to be able to do that. So I think it's a bigger win for the Angels than it is for the Phillies, but for Bryce Harper, he is in a better situation to win right now than Mike Trout is.
Let's go to one more big name in free agency before we cut to break. Craig Kimbrell, the hero of October last year. Do you find it mysterious, Jack, that nobody has signed him yet? Because there are already teams, and it is very early in April, but there are already teams that very clearly have bullpen issues, and this is a guy that can throw.
Yeah, I know which team you're thinking about when you say that.
I'm thinking of multiple teams,
Yes,
but the team
but
that you're
I mean,
thinking of is
yes.
absolutely at the front of my mind right
Yes,
now.
but it's not just Craig Kimbrell. It's Dallas Keuchel also sitting at home. And that's just been the trend. Pitchers, Kimbrell's 30, I believe, Keuchel 31, that are looking for those big mega deals that are multi-year, a lot of money. And clubs just don't want to take that risk on big-name pitchers that are aging. And that's just the trend that we're going into right now. I think Kimbrell, if he's able to, maybe instead of asking for a 5-year deal, if he can get down to a 2 or a 3-year deal, or maybe just say, hey, do the Josh Donaldson 1 year, $25 million, let's try to win a World Series, he'll have a better chance of getting signed. But I think it's unrealistic, not just Kimbrell, but for both of those guys at this stage to say, I want a 6-year deal and I want to be making $23 million when I'm 37 years old.
Right, and I agree. We saw it last year with Jake Arrieta, for example. He was asking for a 4 or 5 year contract over $100 million. No one was willing to give that to someone over 30 years old. He eventually had to settle. Still got plenty of money. Still making, I think, $25 million a year. So, but it's a 3-year deal. So if Craig Kimbrell brings his asking price down, then he's got a shot to land somewhere. But the issue is he is a closer, and you can always find somebody in the bullpen that you can convert
can't
there.
always
You
find
can't always,
someone.
but a team will find a way to maybe convert someone into that role because it's not like he's a starter where you need him for 6 innings and so you're willing to dish a little more money out. It's a position that you can convert somebody to his spot. And you have to remember that last year in the playoffs, a lot of times he looked very shaky on the mound, and you have a closer on a competitive team for those reasons. The reason the Yankees, not the lone reason, but the reason the Yankees were so good for so long was because they knew Mariano Rivera every single time out of the bullpen in the playoffs and World Series. Anytime you knew his command was going to be there, you knew he was focused. A lot of times last year that wasn't the case for Kimbrell.
But take a look at the most recent playoff series and like these teams that have been so successful. The general notion is that it's about the bullpen, but it seems to be a lot about, I mean, as you mentioned too, the starting pitching. And if you look, I mean, the Giants' dominant run, they had Madison Bumgarner, who could not be touched in the playoffs. You can look at Boston last year and what they did with Nathan Eovaldi, even the Astros the year before with Charlie Morton. It's not as important to have these killer bullpen arms. I mean, the Brewers didn't make the World Series last year with one of the best bullpens that we've
Ever.
seen ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys like Kimbrel aren't at such a premium, and especially with teams, the big market teams, really battling luxury taxes right now. Teams like the Red Sox, like the Dodgers, the Astros, even the Yankees, if they want more bullpen pieces, don't want to dedicate that much money and have to worry about the luxury tax for a piece that, I mean, as you mentioned, you can take a AAA flamethrowing starter, stick them in the bullpen, and they sort of develop. Not as a closer, not at the same level as Kimbrel, but the Dodgers did it with Julio Urias last year. I mean, Carl Edwards Jr. was meant to be a starter, and he's now in the bullpen.
Yeah, don't get me started on Carl Edwards Jr.
We're not
right
gonna
now.
go down that rabbit hole.
But I do want to add one more thing. You mentioned up the starting pitching being what wins in the postseason. You mentioned a couple teams. Just look at who's won the World Series the last 3 years. The Red Sox last year, dominant starters. The Astros, dominant starters. And the Cubs in 2016, dominant starters. You even go a year back before that, the Mets, who didn't win the World Series but made the World Series, dominant starting pitching. It's very against the grain of what people think matters in baseball right now because there's so much emphasis on starters' innings per start going down. No one pitches 200 innings anymore. More, let's get it to the bullpen. Don't want to see guys third time through the lineup. But the teams with the best starting pitching are the teams that make the World Series and win the World Series. And that's why it's more weird to me that Keuchel is still out there instead of Kimbrel.
The good thing, though, for both of those guys is that baseball is a very long season.
Yes.
A lot can happen, injuries, and they're going to be at the top of the list, I'm sure. If anything happens to a team's bullpen or anything happens to a starting rotation, they'll be the first couple guys that teams look for.
There's a lot to unfold, and there's a lot to unfold here after the break, and we're going to cut to break right now. But when we come back, we're going to go around the horn, pick our division winners, hand out some awards, and more. So stick with us. Welcome back to the Toss-Up. My name is Michael Dugan, and I'm joined by Dan Black, Drew Fry, and Jack Grossman, and we are talking baseball. Guys, it's time to play Make Your Case. I have a lot of questions ready, so we're going to rifle through these, and it's going to be all of the division champs, and then we're going to get into our lightning round. We will start, Jack, with you in the AL East. Who wins it? Go.
Yankees, it does worry me. They have 11 guys on the injured list right now, but I think they are the most talented team in the East, the most complete team. Also, Red Sox bullpen worries me.
I say definitely the Yankees as well. They have shown signs of improvement. This was over 100 wins this team had last year, and they're only getting better. The Red Sox haven't really made many moves. I think the Yankees are right on their tail, and this is going to be the year they pass them up.
I agree with them. You can't really pick anybody. I mean, you could pick Boston, but like you said, their bullpen's a little iffy right now, and then you still have Stanton and Judge back-to-back together. Still such an issue for teams to go against, so got to go with the Yankees.
AL Central.
This one's a little harder for me. I think the Indians are the favorite solely because the rest of the division is just so bad. They're so young and so bad that if they don't win, it'd be almost sad for them.
Yeah.
Do I have to make a pick for this one?
No, we can just go to Jack.
Can the Red Sox win the AL Central?
Yeah.
Is this how we go? But
I think you took Jack's joke.
That is
Jack.
exactly what I was going to say. The AL Central is so
You're
freaking
welcome.
trash. No one deserves to win it. The Yankees, Red Sox should both get the division buys. Winner of the AL Central, if they're lucky, should be forced to play in the wild card game. But you know what? The White Sox are going to win it. Indians, window's over. They're going to have a 2015 Cubs-like run come out of nowhere. A lot of young talent with Eloy Jimenez. Moncada's playing well early on. I'm going to take a shot, throw a dart and just say the White Sox are going to do it.
Drew, your pick was?
Sorry.
I will go with the Indians officially. I like the White Sox pick, and I think give them maybe next year, the year after. But this is a solid Indians team. It's not one that I can really see making a deep run into the playoffs, but I do think that they will win the division and don't deserve to have it taken away from them for sheer
You got to
poor
be bold
play.
on one of these picks.
You have to.
That's fair.
I'm struggling keeping a straight face because our guy Michael Tilka in the background is a big White Sox fan. I saw him going crazy when those two words came out of your mouth. Let's keep going west. AL West. Who do you got?
Houston. they're just,
Yeah, don't
Next
even-
question.
yeah,
All right.
well,
Okay,
yeah,
we'll skip
really.
the AL West.
Yeah, let's not even worry.
This is where it gets interesting. The NL East. Really, the National League is interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the National League in itself is interesting. It's a very competitive division. I'm going to go by my biases and go with the Phillies just because of that lineup right now and the way they've played so far this season. The pitching has been very strong for the most part. That top 5 of the order has been just killing the ball. And then you look at Mike Franco, who got moved all the way down to the 8th spot, been a very, very good 8-hole hitter. The only thing that sort of worries me for them is the back end of the bullpen. But at the end of the day, NL East very, very competitive. Could be one of those situations where it comes down to the final couple weeks of the season, and then it's really just a dogfight. But I think the Phillies will find their way and be crowned champions once again for the first time since 2011.
He's feeling it.
The East is definitely competitive. I'm going to go with the defending champion Braves, though. I think they showed last year that they're a great team with so much youth. Acuna, who just signed a big deal, Camargo as well. You've got all sorts of guys in that lineup. And in the pitching rotation, once Fultonavich gets healthy again, I think it's just an all-around great team full of youth and experience. I think they're in a very good position this year.
Yeah, they also added Josh Donaldson. Just going up and down that lineup, both the Phillies and the Braves, really, really, really deep lineups. But I like the Phillies' rotation a bit more because, Fultonavich is out right now. 60% of the Braves' projected rotation is on the injured list currently. So I'm going with the Phillies because I like their rotation a lot more. Aaron Nola, of course. Jake Arrieta, one of the best big game pitchers in baseball. And I think it's going to be really fun to watch those two teams dig it out. If the Mets could ever get any consistent offense to follow DeGrom, that would be fun as well.
No love for the Marlins, huh? No one's
Lewis
buying for the
Brinson.
Marlins.
He just corrects them, but the idea makes them laugh.
All right, I'm putting you on the spot. Just pick a team who has a higher win total, Marlins or Orioles.
Marlins. It's close, though,
Marlins.
man.
The Orioles are really, really
Hey, the
bad.
Orioles won 2 out of 3 from the Yankees
The
already.
Orioles did just beat the Yankees. I'm going to go Orioles.
Okay, I just had to put it out
I'd
there.
say Rule 5, number 1 overall pick, Richie Martin, has a standout year. Maybe
Chris
the
Davis
Orioles.
hits 50 home runs.
I'll take
Mark Trumbo.
I'll take Lewis Brinson on the Marlins to break out, keep them afloat, maybe sneak them by 50 wins. NL Central.
I think this is the most competitive division in baseball
By far.
with the Cardinals, Brewers, and Cubs, and to a slight lesser extent, but they're going to a real tough out. Also, the Cincinnati Reds have one of the most fun offenses in baseball. But for me, this is the toughest one to choose between the Cardinals and the Brewers. Milwaukee's starting pitching has to catch up with them at some point, right?
Has
You
to.
would think it would eventually. I mean, the fact that they don't have Dallas Keuchel on their roster is just mind-blowing to me because they have no starting pitching, and for the better part of 2 years now, it just hasn't mattered. So, I think...
You're right.
Just thinking about it.
Oh, man.
I've been
It's
holding
tough,
in-
it's tough, man. I
He's
get
still
it.
on the Marlins.
I've,
Give him a minute.
I've been
The
holding
idea
in a
of the Cubs
sneeze for
finishing
like
third
5
killed me.
minutes, and now I'm coughing. But going with St. Louis.
Yeah, that might have been what killed him. right
He
there.
was struggling to get that one out.
But he got it out there. He got it
I'm
out.
going to agree with you on the St. Louis pick. I think St. Louis is a great team. The addition of Goldschmidt is huge. Not to mention a great rotation that they've got. They've got several bullpen pieces as well. I just feel like it's an all-around solid team. I think they'll end up putting together the pieces and make that run this year.
I'm going to have to go with the Brewers. That offense is just so strong. Christian Yelich putting in an MVP type
Already.
season once again. Yeah,
Exactly.
already. And
We got to move on from the NL Central, guys.
a week into the season. The starting pitching is an issue, but we'll see if they maybe add someone throughout the season, figure it out. But right now, I like Milwaukee.
They'll add 3 more bullpen arms before
Yeah,
they get into the
yeah.
starter.
Might as well.
Speaking of the Marlins, we have name dropped so many former Marlins as potential leaders for division
For other
winners.
teams.
It's absurd that
That's true.
they may not win 50 games this year. The
Yeah.
NL West.
I have to go with the Dodgers. I mean, it's just hard not to go. It's hard to go against them. I like the Padres as well. Obviously, they added Machado. That's huge for them. But right now, for me, it's the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the Dodgers. If anyone's going to make a run, I still think the Rockies could do it. I think the Rockies are a great team. They've Arenado, a big piece, obviously. Kyle Freeland ready to take that next step and lead the rotation for Colorado. But I can't pick against the Dodgers. They've made it to the World Series in back-to-back years. And frankly, I think they're in a good position to do it again.
It'll be a 2-horse race with the Dodgers and the Rockies, but the Dodgers are the better team, and they'll get it done again.
All right, lightning round time. We got some more questions here. 10 seconds or less. Let's fire through these, Jack.
Ready.
World Series matchup. Go.
Astros over Cardinals.
That was absolutely under 10 seconds. Well done.
I'm going to say Yankees over Dodgers. We're going to go throwback on this one.
Yankees, Phillies, 2009
Oh,
all
no.
over again.
Here we go. 10 years.
10
AL
years in the
MVP.
making. I'm going to go with Judge.
I say Mike Trout does it again.
Trout, my grandfather, by the way, had a heart attack live at Game 2 of that 2009 World Series and just did not tell anyone and went back to Louisville before doing
Wow.
anything about it.
That's impressive.
I'm glad the story ends that
The
way.
entire mood of the room changed.
NL MVP.
Paul Goldschmidt.
I say Yelich goes back to back.
My guy, Bryce.
There it is.
There it is.
AL Rookie of the Year. Actually, let's go NL first. I'm more intrigued by the American League potential Rookie of the Year. So let's go NL Rookie of the Year.
I like Tatis Jr.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the next best Washington outfielder, Victor Robles.
I'm going with Tatis also.
American League. This is where I'm intrigued.
Eloy Jimenez, as he's going to be.
There's the celebration.
He's just going to come out whacking.
In the background.
He has an extra couple of weeks because Vlad Guerrero Jr. is not in the majors yet, and that'll help him.
Everything I've seen about Vlad Guerrero Jr. just yells MVP, future MVP. He's not going to win MVP this year, but Vlad Guerrero Jr. is just completely unstoppable. There's no way he doesn't win.
Yeah, I'm all in on Eloy.
Everything
Okay.
I've read about Vlad Jr. has been that he's going to come in and slug with the best of them pretty much immediately.
Have you seen his body? Did you see him in spring training?
Yeah.
That's a big boy.
he's-
That is
I think
a big
he's a
man.
I think in a way it'll have a Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna effect from what we saw last year, but at the end of the day, Acuna getting more playing time is the reason he won, and I think that'll be the same reason this year.
All right, last word, one word. We've said a lot of them. This has been a great show, but condense it down to one word for your final word of this show, Jack.
Fickle.
Why?
Yeah, you got to keep going on that.
Baseball is a very fickle sport. That is all.
Okay.
Thanks for the
I will make the
elaboration.
rare, I will
Appreciate
make the rare exception that you had to elaborate there, but okay.
I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one, but it's one phrase. Let the kids play.
Okay.
That you're not allowed to cheat on last word.
I just did.
How about youth?
Is there a hyphen?
Youth, that's fine.
If the word is
I'm gonna
hyphenated,
go. I'm gonna go star-studded. The stars will shine this year.
I believe that's hyphenated. I'm not an AP style book expert, but I think that might be hyphenated.
Can I hyphenate my phrase?
No.
Nah, that's stretching it a little too
That
far.
doesn't work
That's
that way.
stretching it a little too far. All right, guys, thanks for coming in. That does it for the show this week. Be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at iOS TV Sports and on Facebook at iOS TV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you may have. Toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next time.